Okay, so we took a little break. We are back, and so Pauli, you have been. I mean, you've had correspond. Yes. So you have corresponded with many of, I guess you can call, the old guard or the luminaries or the people who spearheaded a lot of the things within this hobby. Arneson is a familiar name with a lot of them, and not just communicate them, but establish relationships with some of them. And one of the things that I'm interested in, and you've touched on in quite detail on your channel, is of course your established relationship with one, M.A.R. Barker,
Yeah.
which for a lot of people within the hobby, if you're not familiar with it by now, you can obviously go familiarize yourself with it. And unfortunately, his legacy ends in somewhat of a tragedy, I guess you can call it. I mean, I guess tragedy is a bad word, but still. Um, so, Tekumel, the world of
Yeah.
the Empire of the Petal Throne. A little quick
The
story
Belfry.
on my end regarding that. I came into the world of Tekumel late in life. I mean, it was one of the, if not one of the first settings established after Dungeons and Dragons came out, but it's been it's been around for decades, and people have been enjoying it, enjoying playing within that world, have expanded it exponentially. There's other people who have established their own version of the game, and he's a very in-depth world. And one of the things that I enjoy is I'm a lore hound. Give me a game with dictionary sized volumes of lore, and I will eat it up. And Tekumel, of course, is one of them. Glorantha, Harn, and stuff like that. Um,
Harn, Harn.
so I was lucky enough before the news came out about him of I someone was selling the original white box on some obscure site, and
Oh, cool.
it was one of those where you'll see them on eBay or some of these other sites where you can tell it's not a gamer selling it. It looks like grandpa passed away and they went into his attic, and so on eBay there's a watch, some old socks, and then this white box of Tekumel that I
Well,
picked
it
up.
says $8 on the cover, so that's where we're
Yeah.
starting the meeting. I'll
Which
give you I'll give you 10.
kind of was how it was. So I had won the purchase, and then at the day before everything everything went down the toilet was when it arrived. And I was about ready to do an unboxing video of it. And then, the news came out, and I'm like, "Oh, oh, oh, we'll wait on that for a little bit." But prior to that, I did also get for an inexpensive amount the pink cover book, the one that was published after the fact, which was lucky enough it came with the beautiful map inside of it. So
Hmm.
so long story short, this I'll kind of maybe let you take the helm on this, but the news came out, of the book that he wrote, that he was involved in, that I guess was in the rumor mill for some time, but essentially came out as actually being fact, and it caused a rift in the hobby between quite a few people, because there was now the situation of where do we go with this? How do we handle this world that people have been existing in and have been playing in and have been enjoying for so long, and come to find out that the author was, I guess, for lack of a better term, a Nazi sympathizer. I think is kind of what you would call it, or he sympathized with the well,
One of the true founding members of the
yeah,
American Nazi movement.
yes,
One of the
and
truly great founders of American white supremacy.
yes. So,
Um,
but
yeah,
I'll let you go, because again, if you want to see some things that we may not touch on here, go to Polly's channel, because you made several videos of that, coming to terms in
yeah.
real time on how you were handling it. But please, I'll hand you the wheel.
Mm. Well, Tekumel was very important to me because it was the first kind of long RPG campaign I was in. We played D&D,
Hmm.
and that was kind of fun. As in, there'd be a few adventures linked together here and there, and we played that. But Tekumel,
Hmm.
that was the first real thing I plunged into, and I still have those characters, lovingly preserved from like the 70s, and it was a real eye opener because it was a whole world beautifully done. It had written scripts, and it had a history, and it had an art style all of its own. It was unique. It was very kind of science fictiony, sword and planety, mixed with kind of. There's been previous civilizations, so it's got kind of like a post-apocalypse kind of, and it
Yeah.
was just stunning. And so I immediately wrote to M.A.R. Barker, who
Mhm.
wrote these amazingly enabling letters straight back to me,
Mhm.
treating me with a great deal of respect because at that stage, um, I knew a fair bit of like Indonesian and Southeast Asian
Mm.
history and so on, and I had seen some of the markers in there, not a lot, but it had some of that feel. So, but I got this kind of respectful letter back to this little teenager,
Mhm.
about how, "Well, that's fantastic," and I said, "Oh, I want to study. I want to go on as a historian, and I want to go on as an author in this." And I got
Yeah.
these letters back saying, "Do it, go for it. Don't let anyone tell you no. Don't let anyone tell you that's not a life or that's a
Yeah.
career." So we stayed in contact till the end of his days.
Mhm.
And so it was kind of devastating when he died. And yeah, so he was sort of a real mentor figure to me because he'd kind of given me the blessing. It's okay.
Right.
That career you've got that your parents are going to try and talk you out of,
Mhm.
do it. And it'll be a real invalid thing. But then it came out that effectively he was pretty much a key figure in the establishment of the American Nazi Party, and he was almost the progenitor of Holocaust denial, and had been involved with the regular publications of the first kind of white supremacy organizations,
Mhm.
to move outside the KKK and so on
Yeah.
in the USA, and it was just bloody horrible. Now, some of the people involved in the Tekumel Foundation. Now, when
Yeah.
he died, they made a foundation to handle the IP and put it on. And I've been dealing with them at that stage. They're a bit frustrating to deal with, but I've been sort of saying, look, I love his books. I've got them all here, but they were never written by an author. These are really they're actually just, he's jotted down their regular Thursday night gaming session
Mhm.
and just written it down, which is why they're a bit incoherent and don't really have that much. But
Somewhat.
let's get this IP back in the public eye. So I was trying to deal with them about, I'd like to do some novels to try and bring this back, and I was
Yeah.
actually talking to movie people and saying,
Mhm.
because I met some other passionate producers and a couple of directors who were just fellow EPT enthusiasts. Like, let's
Mhm.
do this as our dream project. And if anyone on earth could be trusted with this, it'd be me, who's loved
Yeah.
this from a child. But then out comes this news, and I was just devastated. And when I went back and looked through the material, I could start to see it.
You could. Okay.
The feel of these kingdoms, reread them, and with an eye and with the word ethno state ringing
Mhm.
in your ears, and you start to get some strange vibes coming off it. Um, so I did a video on my channel about this, and actually I would point that to I kind of point that to people to have a look at, because this is relevant for the J.K. Rowling stuff as
Yes.
well. Because one of the things that I studied was philosophy of argument and so forth, and
Mhm.
you'll always get this, well, you've just got to separate the art from the artist. It's like,
Yeah.
no, and there are set tests of harm that are done,
Mhm.
and I outline them in the video. Can we, in this case, separate the art from the artist? Let's run it through the test criteria
Yes.
about whether it is ethically valid for us to do this. There is actually a science of ethics. I'm not going to go into it all here, but here's how we run an ethical test on this. And as it turns out, this is kind of, it's tipped the balance where it is a platform that can be used to do harm, particularly at this point when there's a incredibly vicious right-wing movement, and part of that is right-wing movements are making a dedicated effort to colonize fanish spaces, of
Mhm.
which gaming is one, because it's a prime source for recruiting disenfranchised, angry white guys. which is their prime recruiting pool.
Mhm.
So they want to extend into this space, and this gives them essentially some more leverage to say, we've always been here. These are our greats. We are the core of this hobby, etc. So
Yeah.
but I go into it at length.
Yeah.
But it was a heartbreak. I had to pull out of all that, and some of the artists and so on who were dedicatedly working on doing stuff, they just pulled out as well.
Yeah.
Or the thing that upset me about it was, again, I've worked in film and so on, and one of my things as the fast talk and storyteller person is spin doctoring. I can help you fix faux pas. I'll tell you about the TSR thing in a bit, but
Yeah.
um, the Tekumel Foundation could have fixed this, and I tried going over it with them. But one of the things that you can do very easily, first off, is make an honest to God statement about, we acknowledge that this happened and that we took enormous steps to conceal it.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with saying, I made an error. That is a very adult
Yes.
thing to do, as long as you say, I did it for reasons which seemed good to me at the time. And panic is certainly a good reason,
Yeah.
but I've learned from this, and I'm going to try and do better. But that was a leap that they've never really done. And the other thing is to show that you're engaging with the community and you're trying to sort of mitigate harm. Well, EPT is a beautiful. I mean, I still think that it's very old. It comes from the roots of original D&D.
Mhm.
So those rule systems, they need a little bit of work. It was a little bit unclear. It's a lovely piece of writing, but it's also 1970s layout, so it's just walls of text that's very hard to go
Yeah.
through. So would have been very easy to do a re-release of the game just with more modern layout, so it's easier
Right.
to read and a bit of a cleanup. But you give all profits from this project go to, the Holocaust Memorial, things like that.
Mhm.
And that would have been such a simple and noble thing to do. And that's a leap they've never done, and they never will. They've just basically hunkered down, hope the storm will pass, and then right, business as usual. And it's like, oh, okay, so
It's interesting because I think that's what a lot of people kind of struggle with, uh, on a on a consciousness level. Of I enjoy this. This is a world that is large and expansive. It's interesting, but ethically, how can I support this? And like you mentioned, if something like that had occurred, and this retreatment that would allow them to then use this this updated version, this cleaned up version, it removes the stigma from it and kind of reintroduces it, and it doesn't die, which is a lot of people's issues with it. It as you said, it's a smack in the face. It was a car
yeah.
wreck. You essentially hit a wall going at 100 miles per hour, and now you're looking at the wreckage going, how do I fix this? Do I repair it? Do I buy a new one? Do I just throw it in the trash heap or at the junkyard and move on? And I think a lot of people do that because it still exists to this day. I mean, there are people out there who may enjoy and still play Tekumel, but they don't want to say it in public circles because there really hasn't been something established of, we've acknowledged this, like you said, we've acknowledged this, we've made a mistake, we're going to try to rectify it, and then try to carry on the
And
legacy of
I
Tekumel without
I I think
including
they've
its artwork.
therefore killed the property, which
Yeah.
is particularly in the case of that foundation, their only function, was to try and keep this going. But I think by
Mhm.
not tackling this,
Right.
this is now something that won't engage a new generation of players, which means the current players will age out and this will be lost,
Yeah.
except as something on bookshelves, which is
Right.
a shame. I've actually got Dave Arneson's copy up here, but sidebar. But yeah, it is a real shame. I keep thinking maybe I should write a replacement. Maybe I should try doing a setting that does that. And actually,
Mhm.
that kind of is what spurred me off into physically exploring a lot of Southeast Asia over the last couple of
Mhm.
years. I've been wandering temples and ruined cities and strange things on the side of
Mhm.
volcanoes has been interesting. Actually, it's a little sidebar on that one. Because I'm a Bollywood dancer, I also dance at a lot of big Hindu festivals.
Mhm.
There's a festival called Garba, which I was invited to, and they said, "Oh, this is just a thing where everyone dances. It's like a folk dancing festival." Oh, okay. So I turned up, and the first thing was, uh, when we turned up, it was like, oh, hang on, everyone's taking their shoes off, which means this is sacred ground. And then we turned up this huge auditorium, like they've taken over a huge kind of basketball court, sort of multi-court thing. There's an altar set up in the middle, and these old ladies come over and they like put bindies on and say, no, you've danced at our festivals for the last couple of years. You're family now. And this was dancing for Durga, who is she's a Hindu goddess. You'll often see she's a woman with multiple arms riding a tiger, and this is the Hindu goddess of magic and it's also sort of female protection and so on, but particularly magic and knowledge. When I got to like Bali in Indonesia, I told like a driver who was driving me around, and he'd mentioned because he'd seen I was wearing some sort of bits of Bollywood bling and so on me, and I'd mentioned dancing at this. We get to these temples on the side of a volcano, and he's just talking with the pundit, the priest,
Mhm.
and this guy comes over and just takes me by the arm and says, "Come with me. It's appropriate." And he led me down through the jungle on the side of this volcanic slope to a black magic temple to Shiva the Destroyer and said, "You can come in because you've danced for Durga and everything." And it's like it's it's straight out of like an Indiana Jones or Call of Cthulhu. There's all the air roots down everywhere. There's
Yeah.
monkeys here and there.
Oh,
A
wow.
snake slithers through the trees, and the temple has got all these monster statues all around it, covered in moss, with just a few shafts of light shining through. And it's
Oh,
like,
wow.
wow. Total role playing score. Role players, by the way, go to sodding Bali. You can go to waterfall caves, jungle temples, ancient ruins. It's like it was. I thought it was just a place Australians went to lie drunk on a beach, and indeed they're there. But if you kind of jump over them and go looking, you find weird stuff. The same. Thailand was full of this sort of stuff. But yeah, that was the score. But yeah, when Nazi, the Nazi reincarnation of TSR, raised his head. So Ernest Gygax made some ridiculous anti-trans faux pas
Mhm.
in an interview, and kind of for his dad's sake, I knew Gary Gygax well. We had to be to be completely honest.
Mhm.
In those days, in the 80s, we
Mhm.
didn't like Gygax much. He was a
Oh,
bit of a prick,
okay.
and he robbed a lot of the game designers up. But we were all gamers and we sort of respected each other, so that's okay. You can be someone that was a bit of a prick. But so for his dad's old sake, I got in touch with Ernest and said, "You've made a faux pas. Here's how you fix it, because this
Yeah.
is one of the things that I do." And he completely ignored it and blew me off and just said, "Oh, I don't have to." It's like, all right, well, I've laid out a program for you. I've said what I can said. I think I've served my duty to your dad in the name of old gamerdom. So
Right.
from here, and of course, it turned into a train wreck. But
Oh god, yes.
the we got a new Lord Mayor here,
Mhm.
and the first day one he got on radio because he'd been a radio sports host
Mhm.
and made all these anti-trans jokes and transphobic statements and so on, just looking for some laughs on radio. So the community's there online, like, because they're going to have, as the introduction to their whole new kind of council regime, they're having a town hall kind of open meeting. So there's all these, I'm going to turn up and give them a thing or two to say, and I just knew they weren't going to turn up, so I decided I would. And so I ended up actually, he gave a long apology, which I've got on camera. I've attached this to some of my anecdotes
Mhm.
because it was quite funny, because I turned in, it's like everyone kind of looked at me and sort of welcomed me, and I just went front and center, and the local Labor senator comes up and talks to me. The senator for the Greens comes up and talks to me. All these senators like rush over to talk to me, and then I'm front and center, and I asked this guy, with cameras running and everything. It's like, so given these anti-trans statements, is this a policy that we can expect from your new administration? How many further anti-trans things should we expect? And in Australia, basically, we're saying,
Yeah.
so how quickly do you want the city burned down? We're not America. It's like, you don't do stuff like this. And he gave this long apology. And so I sat down with him and went through what you have to do. You have to say you made a mistake. It is an adult thing to do, and that
Mhm.
we are now going to try and do better. But the way to do that is we engage with the community and learn from them. Why
Right.
is this wrong? And what should we be doing? And then make some positive um, actual laws and policies, and do that with the engagement of the people, and then enact them and make sure they're not just enacted and forgotten. There's people in charge of making sure that this happens, and it's funded, and it's an ongoing thing. So I was brought in on all these committees. So there are now laws here in this state that are there because ISOTing made them, which is great. And so I put up anecdotes to people, say, get engaged, you can do this. Because the thing is, and I had the Green Senator come over to me at another, when we were standing there, because they had a big launch and everyone wants a photo with the trans person, like, see, we're on side, holding up the laws. And the Green Senator came over and said, oh, by the way, when you walked into that room the first day, because I was wearing like this purple lace dress and everything, says, it was like seeing a Byzantine queen walked in. You were just kind of like calm and regal and everything. But says, there's a thing in a moment in an old Wild West show where the big name gunfighter walks into the saloon through the swing doors. There's
Hmm.
someone playing the piano, dun, 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 and they freeze, and everyone who's
Right.
playing cards freezes, and there's nothing but the sound of the gunfighter spurs. Ching,
Hmm.
ching. It says, it was that moment. Everyone just froze and says, another senator leaned over to me, staring at you, and just leaned over and whispered, "Oh my God, they sent someone." And so, I almost choked with laughter at the thought that this person honestly believed that somewhere a cabal has met and said, who are we sending to deal with this? It's all right, we're sending one of our top people. No, I was just concerned citizen number, 231 that just decided to wander in.
Oh
And
man.
but through the whole thing, they thought I must be representing some sort of big lobbying group or something. Says, no, I just live down the road. I just said, right, mate, let's show you how they do that in the Australian goldfields. Old Union family here. Here we go. So, oh my God, but yeah, you can actually get involved and change things for the better. And then when we've had some English hate merchants come over. There's this horrible woman, Kellyanne Kennelly. She's actually
Hmm.
she goes under the name Posey Parker, but she's one of J.K. Rowling's mates, and she's a
Mm.
professional hate merchant. So she was funded by the American CPAC to come over here and try and spread anti-trans hatred American style here.
Yeah.
And she thought she'd start in small, isolated cities and work up. Well, she came here, and the counter protest met her, and she had we outnumbered her like 15-1 and just
Hmm.
literally howled her out of the city. And again, I actually live streamed this on my site, and those videos are up there. It's just showing these hate merchants getting Med Australian style. Whose streets? Our streets. Yeah, she got run out of town on a rail. But again, you can actually get engaged and
Yes.
do real things and make real things happen. And so
Absolutely.
I've so there is. I'm trying not to be the sort of uh, crazed flag waving agitator, but I am actually quite a respected trans activist, and that does come through on
Mhm.
the channel a bit. It's been really nice to see people engage. So I didn't know. I didn't realize that there were other trans gamers out there, or I'm non-binary, or like we're young and we thought role-playing games was just a place for like angry old white guys, but now
Hmm.
we've seen this,
Yes.
and we're getting engaged. So I think that's been a real success for the channel there. It's like it's given a diverse voice. So that was an unexpected bonus.
Yes. Oh, I mean, without question. I mean, it doesn't take much for someone who maybe feels like that they might be alone. All it takes is just one voice, and they hear that, they go, oh, as you said, there's other people that can relate to me regardless of what it is, whether it be the activist side of you, the people who are tired of the certain political transgressions, the trans movement that you're talking about, whoever the case may be. It just, and they don't necessarily need to be a part of that, but they are questioning that kind of stuff. They are like, I don't like this, but I want to say something. And then they see a channel such as yours or others that gives them a bit of a guideline, something like,
Yeah,
okay, I it's okay for me to speak my mind, it's okay for me to say that this is not right, that this is how things should not
they
be, that.
need to see. I tell people like so. One of the things with being very publicly trans and
Hmm.
like having a channel is that you will invite attacks. So the first thing I do when I get up in the morning, I have to clean the personal attacks off my social media
Comments.
channels.
Yeah.
And there's death threats. There's just the most revolting stuff. Now YouTube's not too bad. You can set up a series of filters that look for keywords,
Hmm.
but they get through, and that can be pretty psychologically damaging. But I don't want some baby trans to see that, or some young person to see that.
Right.
Um, but I need them to know that someone doesn't care and soldiers through,
Yeah.
because that's the only way you'll get a life. So I think it's important that I do that. So a lot of people say, how do you take this every day of your life? It's like, well, someone has to. And there's a lot of, we call them baby trends. They might be, you might be in your 50s or 60s or 70s, but you're wanting, that you have to do this.
Hmm.
Well, where it's just like, it's something that's been in you and whatever. But if you're trying to make that decision, it's nice to know that there's some hard old bastard that's got your back.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me be your shield
Yeah,
while you figure stuff out. That's yeah. That there has to be someone for any situation, for any movement, whatever the case may be. It helps people discover themselves because as if someone else who's gone through that says, you know what, don't worry about these assholes. I'll take care of them. You figure yourself out. And when you are
let
strong
me
enough and
field
you have
them
your
for you.
voice, yes, yes, no, superb, fantastic.
So that's been
Um,
good.
Yes. So, my God, we're going on over 2 hours here. So this will be a two-part Pauli Kidd episode here. So, but I think why don't we conclude it with we'll kind of steer back into gaming just a tad, and let's talk about one of your most recent things I saw on drive through Wolf's Head Tour.
Ah,
You put that out a little while ago. I believe it's your personal fantasy campaign or something such as that. And I saw you did kind of promote it a bit, and then I've picked it up, and I saw other people seem to be interested in it. I know a lot of people who have either picked up the PDF or have ordered it. It's now available for those of you interested in print on demand. But that's it's always interesting when someone says, I'm going to publish my personal campaign. And this is no slight against yours, but it's a coin toss. Some of them
yeah,
are very personal to the point where it's like, I don't know what to do with this, and others are like, I'm kind of, it's very hard not to do the typical homebrew thing of, welcome to my game. Here's my 3-inch ring notebook with everything in here. Let's start playing. In regards to personal campaign and publishing and whatnot. So, but again, what brought this about?
so through all of life's disasters,
Hmm.
somehow magically my original high school D&D campaign has survived. And it's still over there, not in a three-ring binder, but it is in my school folder, complete with like skeletons and lizards and things drawn on the outside. And somehow through like literal bushfire, flood, um, house collapses, marriage collapses, yeah, everything. This had, this has survived, and also in that
Hmm.
folder where my original brown book D&D and my original
Wow.
kind of Judges Guild purchases and things
Hmm.
like that, they're all in there. But this has never stopped being played over the years. It just was kind of my default setting. Like you'd go to a convention and like there'd be some people who are looking for something to do, or there's someone, oh, how do you play these? Like, oh, I tell you what, I'll run D&D for you and show you how this is. And all right, well, look, just default, we'll put it here. It'll be the same world, but there were some ongoing kind of dungeons which are updated over the years and whatever. But
Hmm.
it's been a living, breathing thing that's just
Yeah.
been played happily since 1979. And so I just decided let's clean this up from its magnificent original biro written on school foolscap, or from letterhead stolen from my dad's work, and
Oh.
let's actually put it out, because not only was it kind of the oldest of old school, but
Hmm.
the way we played was always very, very inclusive,
Hmm.
and didn't have a lot of the strictures that I saw in like Gygaxian advanced D&D,
Yeah.
because good old Blue Book basic Holmes D&D
Hmm.
said you can be whatever you want. You want to play baby dragon? Play a
Yeah.
baby dragon. You want to play a lizard man? They've actually, he actually says this. So, all right, let's. So I made my own world, and we were always open to discussion about if you wanted to play something. But the world that I deliberately did set things up so that, like, I said, let's do orcs, but let's say there's none of this stuff where things just evil because Tolkien said so. But let's make a world, and let's say, all right, orcs, let's base them a little bit on kind of American Eastern Coast woodland Indians, like Last of the Mohican style. So these things are really violent and dangerous, and they're really good at what they're doing, but they just live there. They could be allies, they could be trading with you, or this could be like evil Hurons, wicked Hurons coming down to raid your settlement. But, but that's because that's who this little tribe is, not because
Mhm.
these guys are inherently this. So it was built on these kind of assumptions to make a world that was a little bit more complex than that. So it seemed to deserve, particularly in the light of lots of people saying, "Oh, this has to be this way because this is the way D&D was back then." It's like, no, it
Yeah.
wasn't. And so I thought, well, let's re-inject this and say, no, no, this is how it was. This is Blue Book rolling over from original, Brown Book. This is how it was, and it's actually kind of a rather sweet, engaging little thing. And the other thing about it was there was an element in it that I also saw in Teagle Manor, which was one of the first Judges Guild offerings,
Mhm.
an above ground dungeon. It wasn't just, hey, let's go into things.
Yeah.
There were many, many dungeons and tombs and barrows and things in the setting, and these are in the book that's published. But there was also a big kind of above ground sort of palace fortress setting. So a haunted house essentially, rather than a thing, which again was kind of a big leap at the time, and sort of deserves to be brought back again. So it was good doing it. The novel that I've done, Dungeoneers,
Mhm.
is about exploring that place.
Oh, excellent.
So it's a party, essentially a bunch of first levelers get together and off they head, um, and
You I was just
so
gonna
kind of
say,
bringing it to life.
you do, and what's interesting about it is it is old school in not just theme but also functionality. I mean, there's a wonderful little paragraph here about mapping, which is a lost skill, but who's maintaining the party map now? My son and his friends have no concept of that. And if you actually told them to
Oh,
sit down and draw a map, they probably would be interested, but it's like, Father, what is this archaic tool you're using? What is graph paper? I don't want to do homework. But no, it's it's very endearing,
I think I put it in there because one thing we would do is we'd have like big sheets of whoever's maintaining the map. Some of
Yes.
the I was doing the map. All right. Well, what are you doing? Did you buy parchment or something?
Hmm.
Uh, no, but I can get some. I get paper. All right. So we get a big sheet of paper and they'd be drawing and they'd get scales wrong or something. But all right. Well, the guy carrying the map falls into a pit trap that's full of water. So you'd grab the map and you'd dunk it in the sink and bring it back. Like, well, oh god, now half the ink's run. And then later on when that's dried, oh, he gets hit by a fireball or something, right? The umpire would go out and like burn the edges and burn a couple of holes in the thing and bring it back. And you get this endearing damaged document. Or one
Oh
guy said,
yeah.
"Oh, I'm doing the maps. Have you got any paper or anything?" No. I'll just do it on my shield.
Sure.
So there was an SCA guy in the group, and he had a shield that just had like a blank face. All right, so he had that there. And have you got a pen? I'll draw in charcoal. So he's actually drawing on an actual shield. This is the party man. But as all right, he's parried 3 or 4 blows. All right,
Mhm.
so you'll cut a couple of slashes across the shield. And, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, but it carries on, and I haven't read through the whole thing, but it does. It is a nice mix of old school goodness and new school sensibilities. You've got as you mentioned, the orcs. The orcs are not just cannon fodder for experience points, but they are pig snouted orcs. There we go. But they do, they are merchants, to a certain degree. They're also metal workers. They do have a bit of a culture to make them something that exists within this world. But you will get well, the best orcs are the pig snouted orcs, because and that and fair, that's fine. I have no problem if your orcs have a pig
I love
snout or
them.
if they have a
I
beak.
fell in love
Yeah.
with them. Yeah.
Oh yes. No, they are they it's kind of one of those things where that's how I've always remembered them to be, because that's what I grew up with, and I've seen the transition and whatever. But I
Snorkers, good. Yeah.
yeah, not. I mean, well, speaking of, wasn't that? I don't know. It was an Australian cartoon, but I believe there was Australian voice actors in the old Snorks cartoon, which was like the underwater Smurfs thing. So
Oh god, there probably was.
yeah.
Plus, there was an old British war movie, The Cruel Sea, where every time they eat pork sausages, it's always snorkers, good but remains a battle cry every time
Right.
someone sees orcs.
But
Yeah, that
it
was
it
good fun. It
mhm,
also brings back some stuff from some of the old magazines and so on that were coming out
mhm.
at the time. There were some great little character classes that have been lost but remained kind of old school favorites for some of the players that are around. So reworked and preserved them as appendices in the back. So that was a good fun thing to do. I liked it.
Oh,
Um,
it looks fantastic, and it's,
I
though
illustrated it myself because I figured 15-year-old me would have wanted that. Let's use my own crappy artwork and let's give it that naive. Hey, this so the whole thing had a wolf theme to it because you were 15 and wolves were cool.
yeah.
So like I did a little introductions like no apologies for the fact that this was something done by someone who is listening to a lot of Hawk Moon and so
Oh,
or
oh,
Hawk Wind, sorry, and
it is it's a tradition that carries on because I mean any decent gamer sitting around the table, your mind will drift and you're doodling something that's being described, or you're finally deciding what your character looks like, and you flip over the sheet of any old character sheet. There's many different drawings and doodles that you're like, my yeah, and same thing carries on. I will sit down after the wreckage of a game when my son and his friends play, and there's trash and sheets and dice everywhere, like there is. And you will see, him and his, friends. There's various drawings of, this and that, and this is my character, and this is my character. And then, but you don't pay attention to it, because the moment that you say, "Wow, this is wonderful," how dare you give me that back? You can't look at that. And like, but Daddy, do you still have any of your old sheets? I'm like, oh no, no, you don't. It's going to be a lot of boobies and whatnot on the sheets and whatnot. The I don't know if you remember the old I don't know if you had a copy of ElfQuest, the old Chaosium game, and they had
oh
the
god.
they had the
Oh,
blank mannequins of elves where you can fill in, you can draw over them, from the Wendy Penny drawings, and you can make your own looks and styles. And of course, a young boy is going to, yeah, draw that. And it's funny because I recently acquired a box of the old
oh
ElfQuest
god.
game, and I'm going through it and I'm looking for the sheets. I'm all, it's here. It's got to be here. And lo and behold, there's one that just filled in, have nipples on and everything. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, never fails.
We were running one of those early conventions that I was running. For some reason, Chaosium sent us like a crate of about 200 of these, and it wasn't that big a convention. There's only like, I don't know, there might have been 300 people at it, but we had
Mhm.
this kind of quiz night thing going. So we're using these things as prizes. But the thing was, if you got a question right, you get a copy of the ElfQuest role playing game. If you get one wrong, you get two copies of the ElfQuest role playing game, or more, depending on the vote of the people there. So no, that's no three, no four, right? Four, he gets four. We just had to go through these sorting things, and it wasn't really kind of butch enough to get the kind of Warhammery D&D playing, mech warrior playing crowd that interested.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that was another failed one. Again, comic book fan, read the ElfQuest books, and finding out role playing game. Come to my group of friends. There's a little Scott going. There's this fantastic game about this comic book, and you can just see six heads go. No, Scotty, just move on. We're not going to play it. Just stop. Um, oh,
Oh god,
okay.
the when Call of Cthulhu came out,
Hmm.
it was the same because I'd like read those books with a lot of my high school friends, and then that game comes out, and because we sort of read the books, I remember the first time I ran it. Well, some friends of mine that have read these books with me, let's play the game of this, and I think someone's equipment list was basically a revolver with one round in it. Because they might get my body, but they won't get my soul. and, and I think, oh, is this the 20s? Yes, heroin. What? I'm going to be a crazed drug taking poet. Who's going to stagger through this thing in some kind of weird frenzy and obviously die horribly because that's what happens to you in the story. So,
Yes. Oh no.
well, you can
People
do a
make.
bit more than that in the game, but it
Oh,
was
of
like
course.
I'm glad you were getting into the spirit.
People make fun of the typical
Uh,
fantasy edge lord, the thief who is dressed all in black leather, whose parents were killed by orcs. wait till you get into Call of Cthulhu. That's where the heroin addicted, edge lords with the single bullet pop out of the woodwork, and oh
There's
wow,
a meme running around that I quite love where you got some evil creature tied to a tree by a party. It says, "Oh, you'll never make me talk. You're good. What can you do to me?" It says, "Well, you may have faced torture, but have you ever faced my 71-page character backstory?" Like, no! It says, "Oh, as the one true princess of this land, but orphaned at an early age." No, 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 no.
oh,
Oh,
fantastic. Well, Paulie, I think we're going on 2.5 hours of a wonderful conversation, but I'm going to need to wrap it here because I do need to. My family's going to be rising soon, and got to move on with things. But
Yatue,
please,
Yatue, Yatue.
I
No,
know.
not that rising. Okay.
Shh. Um, that would be great if the door opened right now and she walked out. That'd be so perfect. But please, I would love to have you back on again.
Yeah.
Obviously you've got all these wonderful, interesting stories that you've got your own platform, but obviously I'm here like this, just like my Scott, you got your work to do. No, I don't. I want to listen more. But
Games conventions have kind of. I used to get invited over as guests of honor at
mhm,
American conventions and things a lot, but that seems to have fallen. Authors have fallen out of fashion for that these days. I'd love to
yeah.
get dragged back. Um, but well, actually, for the US, depends where. I might
Yeah.
have to leave a body count, but huh, no, not kidding on that one.
Yeah.
That stuff. I keep watching American stuff and thinking, boy, you guys haven't tried this in like Glasgow or or
No,
Perth, have you?
no, it's been very eye-opening and a big change because when we went on lockdown, there's this one what essentially is just called an online pub, right? It's just essentially a big old Zoom chat that happened once a week,
Oh, cool.
done by Paul Mitchner, the author of Liminal, the Liminal role playing game,
Mm.
and so it was a meeting spot. Just for people just to kind of wrap up their week, and they would sit and chat, have a cocktail, chat about gaming and other stuff, and of course British politics was rolled into it. So I for a long time it's like the only American there. When I first signed on, I'm like the kid in the corner at a school dance who doesn't know what they're doing there. And I'm just like, and then finally, someone would ask me a question, I would say something, and like you said, it's the opposite effect of the gunslinger walking to the bar. The record would scratch like, oh, there's an American. Um, and one thing I didn't realize was I live in Southern California, so I'm an Angels baseball fan, and their colors are red. So I had an Angels baseball hat on, but I wear it backwards,
Oh, yeah.
and so it was just this red baseball cap. And it's one of those things where why are people giving me the side eye? And then finally, I think it was Bud or one of the other people I knew there. He's like, "You're wearing a red hat, idiot, and you're American." I'm like, "Oh no, it's just I'm a baseball." Turn it around with the big old A on there. I'm like, "I'm a baseball fan. I no, I'm not. No, I'm not one of them." Um, but yeah,
Go you pond bugs. Yeah.
yeah, it was again the chat was very eye opening, and getting to see and it's not just people from the UK, it's all over, and it's a wonderful thing, and most definitely I'll shoot you a link, but if you would like to pop on one night, please do. It's a wonderful assortment of people just having a nice little chat about stuff. So and
Oh, that'd be
then
cool. It's been fairly isolated because yeah, a lot of things didn't restart again after COVID.
yeah,
So it's
no,
still like
it's
the social life here isn't what it was.
yeah, and
A
it's
lot
the
of clubs
same.
folded and just didn't come back, and
It's a
what a shame.
slow build. It's been a slow build. I feel a lot of people kind of jumped out of the gate early regarding a lot of things, obviously. But there's been some time that has passed where it's still a slow build, and people are still trying their best for a variety of reasons to reestablish social things. But having whether I would much rather have someone on a screen to chat with than
Yeah.
sit and languish, with just
Just
your own thoughts.
before just before COVID happened, by the way, I got
Yeah.
a dream gig. One of my old time gamer buddies here is
Hmm.
Bob Blanchett. That's Kate Blanchett's brother.
Okay.
He's a lovely guy, but he was involved with trying to set up this. He was the IT guy for this convention, and it was going to be enormous.
Mhm.
And they were trying to find, like, how do you find gamer celebrities and actual celebrities and your writers and this sort of stuff. And he just said, there's one person in Australia you just have to talk to.
Mhm.
It's Pauli Kidd, who just knows every fandom, every subgroup,
Yeah.
everyone in it. So they brought me in and they just handed it to me in the end. And oh, it was quite funny because they sort of said, look, we know we've got big plans, so we have to apologize because we're doing this convention and we've only got $1 million in the budget. And I was like, I think we'll struggle through somehow. But we were getting this all set up and
Mhm.
COVID hit. And so like down it
Mm.
went. And I've tried to get them to bring the idea back afterwards, but it,
Mhm.
it just broke the finance people. Like their
Yeah.
morale is gone. Oh, there's no point. Life can just turn around and take everything away from you. You know, it's like, oh shit, we just broke these people's souls.
Excuse me.
So it's a shame. I would love
Yeah.
to get that gig back because it was going to be spectacular. But
Yeah. Well,
oh well. So if anyone
ho
out there needs something, no, no.
well, well,
But it was a
hopefully
dream gig because it's like, wait, you're going to
oh.
pay me just to phone old friends and say, hey, do you want to rort a free trip to Australia? And that, you know?
Oh, that's great. What's the budget? Oh, I don't know, $5,000 or so, or whatever.
We'll well, no, that was it. It's like every gamer who's trying to desperately make ends meet. It's like I'm going to bring you in because these are paid
Yeah,
positions. Like
yeah.
here, run our D&D tournament. They'll pay you $1,000 a day. Ah! But
Oh,
anyway,
yes.
uh,
Well, Paulie, again, thank you so much for taking the time to come on to my silly little channel and chat with me. Been fantastic and eye opening, and like I said, you're welcome back any time. And I definitely check out, go to Drive Through RPG, look out Kitsune Press. You'll find our games on there. I will have links here in the doodly doo to Lulu, links to all the different to Lulu, to Drive Through RPG, to Amazon. Definitely check it out and check out Paulie's channel, Lace and Steel. It is definitely a wonderful channel where you can learn about the history of games. You can learn about the games themselves. You can find a plethora of games out there to try and explore within this hobby, and also learn a thing or two. Learn about yourself. As with a lot of these a lot of the insights that you provide on there. And Paulie, where else can they find you if they want to connect with you?
I am on Facebook.
Okay.
It's you'll have to sort of send me a message because I've
Right.
had to kind of lock my profile down. But I'm
Hmm.
down as Paulie Kidd. You can find me.
Hmm.
Uh, I have to lock a lot of my social media
Yeah.
because of crazy transphobes.
Yeah.
But you'll find me there.
Hmm.
You can if you message me on my YouTube channel. I actually try and answer everyone who comments.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I will definitely get onto people and answer there as well.
Right.
But yeah, Facebook is my normal hangout.
Okay.
And apart from that, can be found lurking about at Australian sci-fi conventions. Um,
Just listen for the Spurs. Uh,
I'm going to be doing more videos. I'm doing videos in strange places because I am kind of traveling to weird places. So
mhm.
last year I think I played the first role-playing games ever played in the ruins of the ancient Thai city of Sukhothai.
Wow.
Uh, in November, I'm going to be the first person to play role-playing games in Angkor Wat.
Wow.
And I'm
Okay.
going to some other cave temples so I'm going to be doing reviews, but actually like playing some RPGs in these locations.
Absolutely fascinating and envious. It's just watch. You can watch me be the first person to play role playing games in the back of my truck coming soon. But no, absolutely fascinating.
I would like to be able to be the first person to do them in orbit, but I don't think we're going to be able to afford that level of ticket.
not not quite. So but again, thank you so much. It's been absolutely fascinating, and love having you on, and look forward to the success with your games coming up, with your novels coming up, and definitely going to be I'll be there in the forefront, picking them up and trying my best to help promote them. And with that, I believe this has been yet another completely unprofessional interview. Obviously, this is a channel that I don't do for likes. I do it for the love of the hobby. And if you would like to be on here and have a chat with me, granted, you're not going to do any better than this right here. This is definitely reach out to me. You can reach me on YouTube. You can reach me on Twitter or X or whatever the hell they call it. But on Bluesky, all the information's in the links. Pauli, you have an absolutely well. Hold on. Have a wonderful sleep because I think you're going to bed soon.
I'll stay up till 3
Yeah,
o'clock in the morning. Me
and
and the team, but
yeah, but most definitely again, would love to have you back on anytime
sure.
whatsoever. So, all right.
Guess you can all find us on what is it? The good OSR channel on
Yes,
Facebook.
yes, the good OSR channel on Facebook. Yes, if that's another way. If you need to get a hold of Pauli and you're not sure, you can always just drop a message on there, and I'm sure you will eventually see it. So everyone, have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again real soon. Bye.